The hall glittered like something out of a movie. White roses spilled over golden arches. Crystal lights hung low, casting a warm glow on the crowd of laughing, well-dressed guests. It was the kind of wedding people dreamt of, expensive, elegant, perfect. Raina stood quietly in a black server's uniform near the back. She adjusted the tray in her hands and kept her eyes down. Her hair was tied back in a tight bun, her shoes too tight. No one looked at her, and when they did, it wasn't kind. "She shouldn't be here," someone whispered, not softly enough. "Isn't that the bride's sister? She's not good enough to be a guest?" Raina's chest tightened. Her grip on the tray didn't shake, but inside, her hands were trembling. A woman in a headset, clearly one of the wedding coordinators, walked over quickly, her heels tapping the marble floor like warning shots. "You," she said sharply. "Whatever past you two have, don't bring it here. This day is not about you. Just serve and disappear." Raina opened her mouth to say something, but closed it again. What could she say? She gave a small nod and turned away. She moved through the crowd, setting down glasses of wine on white-clothed tables. Laughter floated around her like perfume. Cameras flashed. A violinist played something soft and sweet. Then a hush fell across the room. The bride had entered. Raina froze. There she was, Alyssa, in a dress that shimmered like water, smiling for the cameras, walking down the grand staircase with a quiet grace. Her arm was linked with their uncle's. Her smile lit up the room, until her eyes landed on Raina. In that second, something in her face shifted. Not surprise, not anger, shame. She looked away too quickly, too suddenly, like she'd seen a ghost she'd spent years trying to bury. Raina didn't move, couldn't. All the noise, the laughter, the music, it faded in her ears. She thought back to years ago. Late nights, fights, silence, being sent away. And now she was here, invisible yet exposed. A server at her own sister's wedding. How did it come to this? Raina and Alyssa grew up in the same house, but it never felt like home to both of them. Alyssa had the big bedroom with pink curtains and toys that came in boxes with ribbon. She went to a fancy school, had ballet classes, and wore dresses that never had stains. Her mother, Mrs. Bello, made sure everything around Alyssa was perfect, her clothes, her future, her image. Raina, on the other hand, slept in the small servant's room with her mother, who worked as the house help. Raina's mom had once been just the maid, quiet, kind, and always respectful. But things changed when Mr. Bello, Alyssa's father, started spending more time talking to her. First, it was small things, then longer talks, then silence when anyone else walked into the room. One day, Raina's mother was pregnant, and after that, nothing in the house was ever the same. Mrs. Bello never forgave her husband, but instead of leaving, she stayed and turned all that anger on Raina. It didn't matter that Raina was just a child. She became the reminder of a broken promise, of shame, of betrayal. Still, Raina grew up with Alyssa. They went to the same schools when they were little, shared the same living room, the same kitchen. But Alyssa always had more love, more choices, more attention. Even when their father tried to treat them both fairly, it was clear. One was a daughter, the other was a mistake. When Mr. Bello passed away suddenly from a heart attack, everything fell apart. Alyssa was 16. Raina had just turned 15. In the will, almost everything went to Alyssa. The house, the business shares, the money. Mrs. Bello made sure of that. She told Raina and her mother that it was time to leave. They left with one suitcase each. Raina couldn't go to college. There was no money for that. So she started working early, first in a small bakery, then as a shop assistant. Now, at 24, she worked 3 jobs to stay afloat. Cafe cashier in the morning, cleaner in the evenings, and sometimes event staffing on weekends. The wedding job came at the last minute. Her staffing boss called in a panic. "Big wedding," he said. "Short on hands. You want extra hours or not?" Raina had said yes. Rent was due. She didn't even ask for the name. It wasn't until she arrived at the venue and glanced at the welcome board, Alyssa and Tund, August 3rd, that her breath caught in her throat. Her half-sister, the one who never looked back, the one who once told her, "Don't talk to me at school. You're not really my sister." Now she was getting married, and Raina was holding a tray of drinks, dressed in black, standing by the wall like a shadow. No one had recognized her at first, but whispers had started, and soon people were staring. Raina hadn't planned to see Alyssa ever again, but fate, or maybe something crueler, had other plans. Raina stepped into the back hallway near the kitchen, her heart pounding in her chest. She found her event manager, Mr. Cunnell, standing near a stack of folded napkins, checking his phone. "Sir," she said quietly, "I need to go." He looked up confused. "Go? Why?" "I didn't know whose wedding this was. I can't be here. Please." Mr. Cunnell raised an eyebrow. "You signed the contract. You're short on your hours this month." "I'll work extra shifts," Raina said quickly. "Just not this one." He shook his head. "That's not how this works. If you leave now, I'll have to report it." Raina swallowed hard. She knew what that meant, a warning, maybe even losing the job. And she needed this job. Badly. She nodded slowly. Okay, I'll stay. Back inside the hall, the music had changed to something slower. People were seated now, waiting for the vows. Raina tried to disappear into the background, keeping her eyes on her tray, her steps steady. But it was already too late. One of the bridesmaids, a tall girl with loud makeup and a sharper mouth, was staring at her. Raina recognized her, one of Alyssa's old school friends. They used to laugh together in the hallways, always looking over their shoulders at Raina like she didn't belong. The bridesmaid leaned over to whisper to another girl. Then another. They laughed, that quiet, cruel laugh that never needed to be loud to hurt. Their eyes flicked back to Raina. She's Alyssa's sister, one of them said. The words moved fast. Soon, people in the crowd were turning their heads. Some whispered. Others just looked, confused, curious, judgmental. Raina felt it. Every glance. Every stare. Every memory. Alyssa didn't look at her. Not once. But Mrs. Bello did. She was seated in the front row, her silver hair pinned back, her jewelry gleaming under the lights. When her eyes landed on Raina, they didn't blink. She stood up without saying a word and walked straight to the coordinator. She leaned in and said something in a voice Raina couldn't hear, but the effect was instant. A man in a black suit came over to Raina. You need to leave, he said. Now. Raina froze. I'm working. Not anymore, he said. The family has requested it. Some guests were now fully turned in their seats, watching, whispering. Raina placed her tray down on the nearest table. Her hands didn't shake. Her face didn't fall. She nodded, and she walked out. No shouting, no tears, no last look back. Outside, the sun was starting to set. The air was warm, but she felt cold inside. Not from shame, not this time, but from something deeper. Something that had been building inside her for years. She didn't cry. She just kept walking, step by step, away from the wedding, away from the whispers, away from everything that tried to make her feel small. She didn't know what would come next, but something inside her had changed. When Raina got home that evening, she dropped her bag by the door and sat on the floor. She didn't even take her shoes off. Her whole body felt heavy. Jade, her roommate and best friend, looked up from the couch, alarmed. You're back early. What happened? Raina didn't answer. She leaned her head back against the wall, eyes closed. Jade came and sat beside her. Talk to me. Raina opened her eyes slowly. It was Alyssa's wedding. Jade blinked. Wait, Alyssa? As in, my half-sister, Raina said, voice low. Same father. Different world. Jade's face changed. What? You were working her wedding. I didn't know it was hers until I got there. Jade was quiet for a moment. Then her hands curled into fists. Did she say anything? Did she even look at you? She avoided me. Her mom had me kicked out. Right in the middle of the ceremony. Jade shook her head. That's cold. That's evil. Raina let out a long breath. I'm fine. No, you're not, Jade said. But you will be. They sat in silence for a while. Then Jade spoke again. You need to tell your story. Raina looked at her, confused. Why? Because people like her walk around like they own the world. And people like you stay silent. Not anymore. Raina hesitated. I'm not trying to start drama. It's not drama. It's truth. Later that night, Raina lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling. Her phone was in her hand. Her mind kept going back to the whispers, the looks, the shame. She opened a writing app and typed one sentence. My half-sister got married today. I was the server. She didn't add names. No photos. Just that one line. She hit post. By morning, the post had over 100,000 shares. People were commenting nonstop. Some asked for the full story. Others offered support, encouragement. A few tried to guess who the bride was. Raina didn't reply to anyone. She didn't say anything at all. She went to her cafe job like usual, but her phone kept buzzing in her pocket. By the end of the day, a local blog had picked up the post. Then another. By nightfall, her story was trending. Then something strange started to happen. Other people began to speak. A teacher from her old school wrote, Raina was one of the brightest students I ever taught. Quiet but kind. She deserved better. A neighbor from their old street posted, I remember the day Raina and her mom were sent away. It wasn't right. A cousin from her father's side wrote a long thread. Everyone knew Mr. Bello had 2 daughters, but only one got love. The other got silence. Raina sat on the edge of her bed, phone in hand, reading the words over and over again. Jade knocked on the door and poked her head in. Have you seen this? She said, holding up her phone. Alyssa's brand sponsors are pulling out. Her PR team is scrambling. Raina felt a strange mix of emotions. It wasn't joy. Not even satisfaction. It was more like relief. Like she wasn't crazy. Like someone had finally seen her. By the end of the week, a major news outlet requested an interview. Raina said no. Then a scholarship organization sent her an email. They had read about her story. They were offering her a chance to return to school, all expenses paid. Raina stared at the email, unable to believe what she was seeing. Her whole life, she had been pushed aside, left behind, forgotten. But now, people were listening. People cared. Jade hugged her tightly. You deserve this. All of it. Raina nodded, tears finally filling her eyes. For the first time in a long time, they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of hope. A few days later, Raina got a message. It was from an unknown number. Short and sharp. Alyssa wants to talk. Alone. Please. She stared at the screen for a long time. She wasn't sure what she felt. Anger, fear, curiosity? Maybe all three. She hadn't spoken to Alyssa in years. Not really. And now, after everything, she suddenly wanted to talk? Raina replied, Where? They met at a quiet restaurant in a private booth. Raina arrived early and sat near the window. Her hands were calm, but her heart wasn't. Alyssa walked in wearing sunglasses and a sleek black outfit. Like someone hiding, but still trying to look perfect. She sat down without saying a word at first, then took off the sunglasses. I'm not here to fight, Alyssa said. Raina nodded once. Okay. Alyssa paused, choosing her words. I wanted to clear the air. I didn't know you were working the wedding. If I did, I would have handled things differently. Raina didn't answer. She just looked at her. Waited. Alyssa sighed. You've caused a lot of problems for me. Sponsors are pulling out. People are calling me names. My brand is bleeding. I didn't say anything, Raina replied, voice steady. One sentence. That's all. Alyssa's jaw tightened. Still, you know what you did. Raina leaned forward. Why are we really here, Alyssa? Silence hung between them for a moment. Then Alyssa looked away and spoke softly. I always hated you. Raina blinked but didn't flinch. Alyssa kept going. Dad loved you. Not just like a father loves a child. He adored you. The way he smiled when you walked into a room. He never smiled at me like that. You had everything, Raina said. Why hate me? Because you were the reminder, Alyssa whispered. That he gave his love to someone else. Someone like her. And you got his heart. I got his money. Raina's voice was quiet now. Then why take everything from me? After he died, why let them push me out? Why watch me struggle? Alyssa looked her straight in the eye. Because I could. That sentence sat in the air like a knife. Raina stared at her. And for the first time in her life, she didn't feel smaller. She didn't feel like a mistake. She saw Alyssa clearly now, not as the perfect sister or the lucky one, but as someone who had always been afraid. Afraid of love. Afraid of not being enough. I was never the problem, Raina said, standing slowly. You were just scared I'd shine too. Alyssa didn't reply. She just looked down. Raina picked up her bag. I didn't need your apology, she said. I needed the truth. Now I have it. And with that, she walked away. No shaking. No tears. No more waiting to be accepted. She didn't look back. This time, Raina left the room with her head high. Not as the girl they tried to hide, but as the woman they couldn't silence. A few weeks later, Raina sat on a small stage in front of a camera crew. A popular online platform had invited her to speak, not to gossip or drag anyone, but to share her story in her own words. She almost said no, but Jade had told her, if you don't tell your story, someone else will. And they'll tell it wrong. So here she was. Hair in soft curls, a calm look on her face. Not scared. Not angry. Just ready. The interviewer smiled gently. Why did you decide to speak now? Raina took a deep breath. Because silence helped no one. Not me. Not others like me. I grew up being told I wasn't good enough. That I didn't belong. I started to believe it. But I've learned something since then. Your worth doesn't come from where you were born or who accepts you. It comes from inside. She looked straight into the camera. I don't hate my sister. I don't even blame her anymore. People carry pain in different ways. But forgiveness doesn't mean you have to stay silent or stay close. You can let go without letting someone walk over you. The interviewer nodded. What do you want people to take from your story? That no one should ever feel ashamed for where they come from, or for being left out, Raina said. You don't have to shrink yourself to make others comfortable, and you don't need revenge to feel strong. Sometimes healing is the loudest victory. The video went live the next morning. Within hours, it had over 2 million views. People in the comments thanked her, shared their own stories. Some cried. Some said they felt seen for the first time. News outlets picked it up. Activists reposted it. Even a few celebrities shared her words with hearts and applause emojis. Meanwhile, Alyssa's brand struggled. Clients stepped away. Her name stayed quiet in the media, not praised, not defended, just fading. Raina didn't smile at that. She didn't post about it. She didn't celebrate her sister's fall. She just packed her things and moved to a new city, where no one whispered when she walked into a room. The scholarship team welcomed her warmly. She started school with fresh notebooks, simple clothes, and a full heart. Every day felt like a step forward, not because life was perfect, but because it was hers. She joined a support group for young women from difficult homes. She listened more than she spoke. But when she spoke, they listened. Jade visited often. "You're glowing," she'd say. Raina would laugh softly. "I'm just breathing easier." For the first time, her life wasn't about surviving. It was about becoming. A few months passed. Life felt calmer now. Raina was studying, growing, living quietly, until one morning, an envelope arrived at her door. It was a wedding invite. She opened it slowly and smiled. It was from Amaka, one of her old coworkers from the event company. Someone who had always been kind, even when others weren't. At the bottom of the card, in neat handwriting, it read, "You're not just invited, you're a guest of honor. Please say yes." Raina stood in front of her mirror on the day of the wedding. She wore a simple but beautiful dress in deep emerald green. Her hair was styled in soft waves. Her earrings sparkled gently, just like her eyes. No fear, no shame, just peace. She arrived at the venue, a quiet, open garden filled with flowers and soft music. As she walked in, some heads turned. She heard a whisper near the back. "Isn't that the girl from that story?" Another voice replied, "Yes, that's her." Raina didn't shrink. She didn't hide. She smiled and walked past them with grace. This time, she wasn't carrying trays. She was carrying herself, tall, proud, and whole. She took her seat near the front. Someone placed a small flower pin on her dress. "For the honored guests," they said warmly. The ceremony began. But Raina's heart wasn't thinking of the past anymore. It was thinking of everything ahead, all the doors she would now walk through, not as someone looking in, but as someone fully seen. Her voice echoed gently, like a soft wind over calm water. "They tried to write me out of the story, but I'm still here, louder than ever." Hey besties, thanks so much for watching till the end. If Raina's story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and share. And of course, subscribe for more emotional, real-life stories that hit deep. Her friends invited everyone except her to their girls' trip, so she booked one seat beside. Stay tuned for that story. See you in the next one. Bye!